Hello and welcome to this bonus module, which is all about taking your normal face-to-face classes online. The story behind this module is that I was completing the recording and editing of the whole course as the coronavirus crisis hit the UK. It meant that suddenly I had fewer and fewer students coming to my classes and people asking whether they could access them via live stream. So taking all my digital marketing know-how, I turned my yoga business into one that worked online as well as face-to-face. At that time, I was inundated with calls from other local yoga teachers, other local teaching businesses, even local choir leaders who were just facing ruin really from not being able to make any money at all because they couldn't do face-to-face classes because their businesses were effectively in lockdown. So I've worked with a number of those to help them understand the tools and the opportunities available to them to shift to a virtual or online setting. So what this module is all about is introducing you to those tools and to give you the know-how that you need to be confident in taking your face-to-face classes into an online setting. So here's an example of me in my home studio. It's just my living room with the sofas pushed back. And what I'm doing in this image is I am taking part in a Facebook Live. So the camera is on a little tripod and I am live streaming into a private Facebook group at that moment. So let's just think big picture here before we start getting into all the gadgetry you need and what platforms you need to think about. What I think you would want to think about first is, what are you going to teach? So are you teaching as if you were teaching a face-to-face class and you're just teaching that online? So are you shifting your existing face-to-face clients to an online scenario? So are you pretty much teaching as you were already? And you may have some people live in the room as well as some people joining you virtually, or you may just be live streaming or pre-recording for a completely online class. So that's your first question really. Are you going to live stream or do you want to pre-record? The beauty with live stream is it can be a little bit rough and ready and you don't need to do any editing. People can access it live or they can access it later. If you are live streaming, I'd suggest you do make sure that there's an option for people to catch up if they missed the class live. That does often happen. You know, we have every intention of getting to the live class, but when you're at home, you often find that other things can get in the way, whereas actually when you actually physically need to get to a class, you tend to, in my experience at least anyway, make a little bit more effort to prioritise it. So as you would with normal classes, maybe you want to think of a series of classes around particular themes. So aside from the usual focus perhaps on your chakras, hip openers, developing flexibility, focus on strength, Ashtanga focus or whatever, you could perhaps look at having a one-off pranayama class or a meditation class. If you're watching this while coronavirus is still rife, then people are going to be very stressed and anxious, so perhaps you could address that in some of your classes. You might want to set up an online mastermind call that would work a little bit as group coaching. If people are marooned at home, that could be super useful for them. And this could be a combination of pre-recorded content if you want, along with live elements and a Q&A. So which platform should you use? I'm going to work you through all of these, plus YouTube actually. So Facebook Live, Zoom, whereby.com, Microsoft Teams, Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, Instagram, IGTV, plus YouTube, which I haven't got on this list for some reason. So let's first off look at Facebook Live. Here I am. I was experimenting, as you see, with the curtains closed on this one because I was a bit worried about a silhouette happening. So there is me. I've done a live recording. I'm demonstrating downward facing dog there. You see I am 46 minutes in here. I chose to experiment with Facebook Live first, not least because I'm a Facebook marketing expert, so Facebook is a very familiar environment for me, but it's also a very familiar environment for my students. A lot of the classes I go to, a lot of the people I teach, actually, they're kind of older people, and so any new platform is going to fill them with fear, whereas they feel they've got a bit of a grip on Facebook. So that can be a little bit of an indicator really for you as to which platform you should be thinking about. And there's lots of versatility with Facebook Live as well. So with Facebook Live, you can stream to your profile, to a page or a group. So let's look at the pros and cons of those each. So the thing with a profile is that you'll be streaming to everyone that is friends or followers of you on Facebook, which may not be particularly what you want to do. I think you can actually stream to a private list, but it's all quite complicated. To a Facebook page, anyone that's a fan of the page will be able to see it. And in fact, people will be able to just look at what's going on in the page, regardless of whether they're a fan or not. So with groups, you have that opportunity with groups to have an open group, or a private group or a secret group. So what I've done with my classes is that I have set up a private group. So you can see here that I have got a private group. So this is just called Marie Page Live. So I've made this available to the people that are paid up members of my classes so that they can see my live streams. Now the decision here really, it depends whether you are wanting to monetize or not. If you just want to make your classes freely available to whoever wants to see them, then a page is probably a better thing to be going for than a private group, or you may want to do an open group. But if you're wanting to charge people, you will want to kind of be quite tough about the membership of a private group so that only people that have paid can see your content. So all that you need to do, and you can see in the picture what I've done here, is I have my phone set up on a tripod here. I've got a little gadget that means that I can attach my phone easily to the tripod. You'll be able to easily get them on Amazon, get them sent to you the next day. I'm sure you'll see as well, I've got a cable coming out of my phone, and that is to a charger because I do not want to be running out of battery. Videoing takes masses and masses of battery up, so unless you've got really good battery or you're teaching a fairly short class, I think you want to be connected to a charger. When you're in your group or your page or your profile, you just go to where you'd normally be writing something and you click live. You'll then get a screen whereby you can put the title of your broadcast up, hit go, and then suddenly you are live. Just make sure, I would suggest that you are filming in landscape rather than portrait mode. The downside really of Facebook Live is that you can't see what your students are doing on the other side of the screen. They can comment and they can give little reactions and loves and hearts and that kind of thing. But you'll probably want to be really focusing on your teaching. And if you've got any live students in the room with you as well, you are not going to want to be distracted by what's going on, particularly on the screen. So Zoom is a different kettle of fish, and we will talk about Zoom in a moment, because you can see what your students are doing if they've got a camera when you are doing a Zoom broadcast. So because you can't see what your students are doing, you are going to need to be very aware about where they may have good or bad alignment. Now, if you're an experienced yoga teacher, you will absolutely know what the normal issues are. You know, they're in a tabletop cat-cow pose and their knees are not under their hips, their knees are not hip width apart, their hands are too far forwards. You know, then Trikonasana, they're going to be bending forwards rather than having that nice side alignment, pane of glass behind and forwards. All of the usual kind of cues that you'd probably give to your students as you're teaching anyway. And that's going to be even more of the case when they are watching, because they'll be using their ears an awful lot when they're watching online as well. And you can't see them to make any hands-on or verbal adjustments. So do provide that running commentary, and you are going to be needing to demonstrate very, very clearly in front of the camera so that they can see. And the other issue I find is that you kind of want to have the camera almost in a portrait mode, because you want it to come as closely cropped in as you can to you standing up. But believe me, a lot of people will be watching this on a laptop or a computer, and it will be better for them if it is in landscape mode. So make sure that the camera is as far back as needs to be so that your head is not being cropped off. And ideally, if you've got your hands up above your head, they can see the tops of your fingers. You think if you're doing a steeple grip, they're going to need to see the position of that mudra. Or if the hands are up and open or in a namaste pose, they want to be able to see that rather than imagining what it is because it's been cropped off. Similarly, they absolutely need to see where your feet are. So you will probably find, as you can see in this picture here, that there's quite a lot of space either side of me, but people can see my feet and they can see above. I've left a fair amount of space at the bottom as well because often if you want to use subtitles, for instance, subtitles will run along the bottom. And also a comment thread is there as well. What about Zoom? Now, I've seen lots and lots of chats online in recent days about classes moving over to Zoom, and Zoom's share price has massively gone up in the coronavirus era, not surprisingly really. It's a great piece of software, it's very simple to use and provides you with the option to see your students while you are teaching them. This of course assumes that they have their phones or webcams appropriately positioned. And many of them won't be. So if you look at this example here, this is my friend Amanda, she's a yoga teacher. So this is a Zoom screen from her, I think this is her phone. So you can see these are her people that were inside the class, and these were the people that were accessing her class online. Now you can see if this lady's actually watching on an iPad, isn't she? This one on an iPad. But you can see they are probably, when they stand up and in the asanas, Amanda's not going to be able to see them terribly well because they haven't got their phones or their iPads beautifully positioned nicely far away in order to see. So even if you're using Zoom, you may well not be able to see exactly what your students are doing, but it's really nice to know that people are working along with you and they can, of course, see you. So we've kind of mocked this up here. This is actually, I do some work with Choir Player and I've been helping them to work out how they can take their choir rehearsals to an online setting. So hence their logo here. So you get a grid with Zoom of all the different people that are on the screen with you, and you'll be able to see what they're doing. Okay. So Zoom has a free option, but the downside, well, there's a number of downsides with it, one of which each session is limited to 40 minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but all of my classes are a lot longer than 40 minutes. So they call each class a meeting. So each broadcast or class is a meeting. And you won't get a cloud-based recording of those classes either. I would suggest that you go for the Pro option where you can have up to 100 participants, lots more functionality, and you have the ability for Zoom to record and host the class for people that were not able to attend live. And they will record that and hold that in the cloud, which is, believe me, so much better than it saving onto your computer, and that will just take absolutely ages for it to save and kind of render up on your computer in the background. With Zoom, you can send a link to the students before the class starts, and they can either attend live or watch the catch-up on Zoom. So the admin here is very minimal. With Facebook Live, what I'm tending to do is I record the class, and that's obviously then available in the Facebook group. But I also save that to my phone, and then I'm uploading that to YouTube, and then I'm making it available via a private link to people that just paid for the one-off class but aren't normal, fully paid up members. So it's a way of them accessing an archive of that recording without giving them access to absolutely everything that's in my group. So to give you an example of the way that this is working for choirs, Zoom is working here with the Choir Player songs backing track app playing in the background. So the choir leader here is, she's got her mic open, everyone else has their mics off, and she is playing Choir Player to them so they can all hear it. They're singing along with the song, they're playing all their different parts. So they're taking part in a virtual rehearsal. The sync, unfortunately, with any of these platforms is just not going to work very well if everyone is on mic. So, it's a suboptimal solution. But hey, if everyone's quarantined or simply can't get into the rehearsal, it's a way of them accessing something without missing everything entirely. So your people will hear the track and they can sing to themselves and enjoy the benefits of group singing during what may be a period of isolation or when they're simply away from home. At the time of recording, these were the options for Zoom. So you see the basic free one. You've got up to 100 participants, but you are limited to 40 minutes there. Pro, which is the one I'd probably recommend for you, only $11.99 a month. I mean, it's not that much really, is it? As I say, you've got that 100 plus participants, but it's over 24 hours and it will save into the cloud as well, which is very useful. So if you're interested in any of that, you can obviously go to Zoom and find out. Some tips for using Zoom when teaching. Now, this image is not me using Zoom when teaching. This is me just staging a picture. So let's just think anyway about how Zoom works. It's typically used by business people that sit at their desks for conference calling. So they're either a grid of people that are just talking to each other from different places in the country or the world, or perhaps one of them is presenting an online PowerPoint presentation or similar. So a webcam, if they're filming people's faces as well, is going to be quite close by. And this is getting at this issue that I was looking at with Amanda's classes previously. You're actually going to be needing to sit a long way back from your standard webcam in comparison to how you would normally when you just want head and shoulders showing with Zoom teaching. So if you're teaching, you're going to need to set your phone, your camera up quite significantly in front of you and probably to have it on a tripod. Like that, it's going to be too far away for you to read the comments from participants or to even clearly see what they're doing. You know, even with my glasses on, I'm going to struggle to see that. So what I would suggest is that you have your device that's recording, maybe your phone or your iPad or your webcam probably, up on the tripod in front of you. And then very close to you, you have another device such as a laptop or tablet. You've got that on your mat or just in front of you so that you can easily see what's going on with people while you're teaching, and you're teaching to a different device or camera. The other thing I'd say is that the selfie camera on a phone is generally of inferior quality to the one that is front facing. So ideally, do as I'm doing here, use the front facing camera. So the temptation will be that you'll want to see yourself while you're teaching, so you'll want to have the selfie camera switched on. But the quality is not as good, so try and resist that temptation. Turn the camera around and either do a few kind of time screenshots or just do a little pilot where you're looking at the live broadcast on your other device, check that it's positioned correctly, or ideally if you've got someone else in the house or studio with you, they can be looking behind the camera and seeing that you're positioned quite nicely. So that's Zoom. Let's look at another alternative. This is Whereby. I'm afraid I haven't been able to get an image of Whereby with anyone that looks remotely like they're doing any exercise, but this is the way that Whereby looks. It's a little bit like WhatsApp or Zoom in the way it kind of works here. I've used it an awful lot in the last year as a free video conferencing tool. I like it because the screen share option is very simple to use. And I found that people struggle a lot less with getting connected to Whereby than they do with Skype. Because it's a web link, you don't need to download an app to it. And as happens with me all the time when I'm using Skype, I always seem to have to download an update before I can actually get live with Skype. And if it's not me, someone else that I'm on a call with does. So I often have a 10-minute wait while all of that happens. And then inevitably they have to reboot their computer and it's a bit of a nightmare. The other thing with Whereby is there's no login for people to remember. You simply send them the URL to your account. So it's something like whereby.com / in my case, it would be the Digiterati or Digiterati. Wherby's got a free option for up to 4 participants. So that is quite limited for you as a yoga teacher. It's $9.99. This is $9.99 a month for up to 12 participants. And then there's a $5 a month add-on for recordings if you want Whereby to save the recordings of your meeting. But hey, it could be a useful option if Zoom goes down for whatever reason, and servers do go down sometimes. And you know what? It would still be my go-to for a more typical meeting-based work meeting where you simply want to see faces and do a simple screen share. If you're teaching yoga, Pilates, or some other guitar, whatever, locally, and you're just doing that one-to-one, Whereby is a really lovely option for you. It's a free option instead of FaceTime, Skype, WhatsApp, Facebook Live, or whatever else. So do check Whereby out. It's a little known contender in this market. Next up is Microsoft Teams. Now, this is the solution that many bigger businesses have been flocking towards, not least because since December 2019, it's been available free of charge. It allows for up to 300 people per account, so it's a really big scale option. It is designed more for managing projects and communicating with a work team, but I think it could work well for yoga and Pilates teachers. It's got built-in audio and video recording, as you'd expect, and it's got up to 10 gigabytes of team file storage. So that's 10 times more generous than Zoom. With Zoom, even if you're paying for it, I think you only get a gigabyte. So you might want to have a think about that. I had a really good nose around a Microsoft Team account while preparing this little module, and I'm just going to share with you what it features. So you can see in this little menu here, what you get is a feed. So this is basically a notifications live feed. You get chat. This is Skype-like functionality. It's not Skype, but it works like it really. So it includes audio calls, screen shares, video calls. And, this chat area is the area where you'd be spending most time working as a yoga or Pilates teacher. And each meeting that you create or training event you create will have its own chat thread, okay? Then there's Teams, so you can build different groups of people in the Teams section. So you could have your Monday class team, your Tuesday class team, your Wednesday team, all in separate teams. So each team has its own separate feed. Any media posted there are saved individually as files. I could see this working very well for teachers that have a number of different classes a week, and it means that you can sort of separate out your classes a lot more easily than you might be able to in something like Zoom or in Facebook Live. So you'd normally use Teams with a webcam on your computer, but there'd be, of course, nothing stopping you filming a class either with your webcam or your phone as you would for Facebook Live. So Teams is a really nice opportunity for you. How about Skype? Well, Skype was once the market leader. It was like the de facto video conferencing solution, wasn't it? We think it's fallen behind a little in recent years, and it's been overtaken by some of the solutions that I've outlined above and others I'm yet to get to. But having said that, Skype continues to be used by a faithful crowd of seasoned users. So if your students are already familiar with it, it could make good sense to utilise Skype. It works on Macs, on PCs, and on mobile phones. You can invite participants to join the live call, so you'll see them on a grid, much as you do with Zoom. And just like Microsoft Teams, which of course is itself based on the now Microsoft-owned Skype, each participant requires their own Skype account. This will give them a username which they need to provide you with as the host so that you can invite them to join your call. As with Microsoft Teams, this is a different scenario to Zoom and Whereby, because with those you create a unique link that you email or text your students en masse to join the session at the scheduled time with a single click. So, these they work slightly differently. The way people access them is slightly differently. I do think Skype is more challenging when it comes to your average yoga students. You may, however, see some of these challenging things as a benefit rather than a limitation. You may feel that the personal connection with each student suits your style and your class numbers. And of course, you'll be able to keep really tight control over who's on the call because you will have added them and invited them to it. Be aware that this could be problematic if students are late, as you would need to stop what you're doing in order to add them into the call. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. What about FaceTime? Those of you with Apple devices, so iPhones, iPads, Macs, are probably well aware about FaceTime. So it's got a built-in functionality that does a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and you can host video calls with up to 32 participants. But the big downside is everyone needs to be using an Apple device, and that requirement alone is likely to rule out this free and very simple to use option for your yoga class teaching. For those that have got Apple devices, the process is really easy. You start a FaceTime call, add the participants, you just click the three little dots and you'll see the option. You will need to know their number or FaceTime ID, which is usually an email address. You can also begin a FaceTime within a group iMessage thread. Again, you'll need all the participants on the thread to have Apple devices, but it's very easy. Click the FaceTime option in the group. Everyone in the thread will be notified to join the call. They can, of course, decline if they want. Those unable to join immediately, or those who miss the notification, can join when convenient by simply going to the message thread and joining the video call that's already in progress. So that's a little better than the Skype variant. WhatsApp video call, working a little similarly to FaceTime. The big downside here is that it's a max of 4 people. So what happens is you as the host will phone using WhatsApp all the people, or the other 3 people that you want to have in your lesson. They will answer and they can join in as they want. So WhatsApp may be an option for you if you're teaching in a very, very small class size, or perhaps one-to-one. And of course, lots and lots of people are using WhatsApp now, so it's a familiar platform for them. Google Hangouts. Well, not that long ago, Google Hangout would have been the kind of obvious choice as well as Skype. And it is still available, but it is in the process of being replaced with 2 new products. That's Hangouts Chat and Hangouts Meet. Using the free version of Hangouts Meet, you'll be able to perform group video meetings of up to 10 participants. If you've got a G Suite account, so that's Google's premium suite of products for small businesses and enterprise, you may already have access to those advanced Hangout features, but these are not yet universally available. They're due to be available in June 2020. So until then, I think we'd recommend just steering clear of Hangouts for the moment. Slightly new kid on the block, Instagram, IGTV. It's a bit of a different beast. It's really a lot more like YouTube than it is any of the other live options I've talked about already. With IGTV, you can upload pre-recorded videos to your own channel, and from there, your followers, or in fact anyone, can view those videos. So this could be great if you wish to make your class a taster, or you want to make it available to view to a potentially large audience, perhaps as part of an overall marketing strategy to bring more people into you. Instagram tends to get massive engagement from users in general, so it's potentially a good choice for you for gaining greater awareness of your virtual classes. But do bear in mind that this is in the public domain, so this is not going to work for you if you want to charge for classes. A few things to note here. Instagram videos are portrait rather than landscape, so bear that in mind when you are setting up your phone. You might, and this is quite clever, want to use 2 mobile phones, one in landscape and one portrait, so you can capture the optimal experience for all platforms. You're limited on IGTV to 60 minutes, so make sure that your videos are under that time. IGTV videos are pre-recorded, so they're not live. So of course you do have the option of editing the videos before uploading. You could add your class name, contact info, some sort of an intro there as well. What about YouTube? Well, you can live stream on YouTube. It is not hard. You do need to have your channel verified, not a hard process to do. You can stream either via webcam or via mobile device. But if via mobile device, you need to be using the YouTube app, and you will have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. So I think that is going to rule quite a lot of people out, because most of us don't have 1,000 subscribers. But assuming you're verified to live stream and you're going via webcam, and that webcam will need to be connected to a laptop or a desktop of some device. So you go to Creator Studio Tools and then hit live streaming, or on the mobile app you create a live stream. You can see here, stream now, really nice and straightforward. What about the restrictions on YouTube? Well, you can have them publicly available, or you can have your videos and your live streams privately available. So with private live streams, that enables you to share to 50 different people at once. It's not going to appear in search results or recommendations, and it's only going to be accessible to the people that you have invited. There's also an option for being unlisted with YouTube. So if you've got a YouTube channel, as I indicated earlier with what I'm doing with my Facebook Lives, I am doing the live broadcast. I am then immediately after the broadcast saving it to my phone. I am then using my phone, uploading that video to my YouTube channel. You will only get that one option to save the video to your phone. So if you haven't got it saved, you're going to have to be able to download it from Facebook Live, and that is quite tricky, believe me. You will need to be verified on YouTube to upload any videos of more than 15 minutes. So don't waste 3 hours trying to upload a really long video and then find that when it starts to process, it then tells you, sorry, you're not verified. This is not going to work. It's not difficult to get verified at all. And then with those videos, they can be private. So you literally just send them a link to whoever you want to share it with. So what I've done in my classes is that my Facebook private group is available to absolutely everyone that is a fully paid up member. So they've got a membership package of my yoga school. But for those that just want to pay as you go and just buy odd little lessons from me, which is the normal practice in real life, for those, I will grant them access to the group just for the duration of the live class. I'll then rescind their access. But I will then, if they've paid for a single lesson, I will then send them a link to where I've uploaded it on YouTube. So that's a little bit of a workaround if you're wanting to play the Facebook and YouTube kind of scenario rather than jumping into Zoom. Okay, so that was all the different platforms. What about equipment that you need? Well, we've talked about having a mobile phone or a webcam, so you're going to at least need to have one of those. You are going to need a Wi-Fi connection that is nice and stable and fairly fast in order for you to live stream. You really do need to have a tripod. Now, of course, you might be able to set up your iPad onto a beanbag or something and have that working well for you. So, you know, you can do that, but just for goodness sake, make sure that you are not having someone handhold it and make sure that the angle is optimal. The challenge if you've got other people in the room as well, if they're doing the class, is that in order for you to get your camera or your iPad or your webcam far enough away from you, you may find that you're quite a distance from people in the rest of the class, particularly if you're teaching in a bit of a long and narrow room. So just be careful that those people aren't completely blocking the camera's view of you. You will need to have a tripod and something to hold your phone or your iPad or your webcam on that. One of those Gorilla Grip things can work quite well, or you can get special little things that will hold your phone, a little bit similar to the things that you have on a car dashboard. I would suggest that rather than just using the onboard mic for your phone, you use a separate mic. If I'm working with a webcam, I am using my Blue Yeti mic, which is the lovely mic that I use when I am teaching. I'm teaching you right now using my Blue Yeti mic, and I could have that on the floor near me or suspended on some kind of a boom tripod above me in a yoga class. Be aware if people are sort of slamming on the floor when they're going from one pose to another, that might unsettle that mic a little, it might bang it a little. So you need to just test whether that's going to work for you. You may well be able to use wireless ear pods. I personally don't, I've got tiny ears. I'd find teaching with ear pods in quite difficult, and I think I'd be wanting to touch them all the time. If you are teaching a pranayama kind of style class and you are not needing to move around a lot, you could just use a PM20 Lavalier corded mic. Make sure you've got a nice long cord on it. You can get extensions for them and have that connecting in to your recording device, either your phone or your computer. Remember, I talked about you possibly needing an additional tablet or laptop for viewing as well. And then lighting. So there's a couple of options here that I've shown you. The little circular light is the one that I use. It's about a foot apart, or a foot in circumference. And if you have reasonably good lighting in your studio and you just want a little bit of fill-in lighting, that can work very well. That's the light I normally use when I'm doing sort of videos, so head and shoulders type videos. The other light that I've shown behind is actually an old tungsten Arri studio photography light that I've had for years. It does get quite hot It's not necessarily the ideal thing for you to use, but if you've got access to one, it works really well. Nowadays, if you're buying something brand new, I'd suggest you Google professional studio lights, professional studio lighting kit, something like that. You'll get a nice little softbox that's a nice diffuser. eBay or Amazon, they start at around £70, so that you've got your little lighting tripod for that, as well as the light and some bulbs, and maybe even a little a white diffuser that will make the light nice and soft. If you feel that you're staring into a white light, just do as I've done with this Arri light and push it up towards the ceiling, and the light will just reflect down on you really nicely. So that's the equipment. You'll need to set up your camera on a tripod. I've talked about not using the selfie camera, and I've talked about needing to have an additional tablet or laptop near the mat if you are working with Zoom in particular, and potentially with some of the other live options as well. Going live, I would suggest that you do a pilot or test run first and see how it goes. Are you going to have real people in the room as well? I personally, when I'm teaching, prefer to have some real people in the room because I feel that I interact better like that. Now, I know I teach into a vacuum all the time when I'm teaching Digiterati stuff. But actually, when I'm doing a physical practice, I do quite like to have a real person in the room. And I quite like some of the chit-chat and the toing and froing. I like it to feel like a real class. But you may well just be working online and be trying to recreate something like yoga with Adrienne, you know, the #1 YouTube yogi. So in which case, you're going to want to make it look really professional. For your viewers, do make sure at the beginning of your broadcast that they are in a room that is suitable for yoga. How safe are they? Have they got a non-stick yoga mat there? Are they going to be waving their arms around and colliding with with a piece of furniture or a cable or something like that? Just get them to sort of do a little safety check, really. And do think about whether you should be teaching students that are brand new to you online. With my students, I've taught them all face-to-face, so I know some of them have got shoulder issues, back issues, knee issues, whatever. I know the cues I need to give them for being safe in a class. If you don't know who your students are, you're going to really, really need to queue up for blood pressure, hearts, all manner of other issues as well. So you're going to need to be really well versed in health challenges as well. British Wheel of Yoga guidelines on remote teaching, if you happen to be a teacher with them, they suggest that remote teaching should be provided via a secure medium that can only be logged into with a user ID or password. They suggest that YouTube is not suitable because sessions should not be open or available to anyone to join or view. What British Wheel of Yoga have not realised is the private link option that I have been sharing with you. So, no surprise in a sense that they're a little behind the technical curve, is it? Bless them. They also suggest that teaching should be restricted to existing clients who've undergone the initial assessment to ensure their suitability for the session, that they're familiar with your teaching methods. It means that you've got an understanding of underlying health issues. So British Wheel of Yoga suggests that at the moment, clients shouldn't be receiving their instruction for the first time remotely. I will leave that to your discretion, though, of course. I am just the messenger here. What about editing video if you're pre-recording those? So we've talked a lot about live streaming, and even if you have live streaming, you may want to top and tail those videos. I'll often have 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of a class where I've set the live going because it's the class start time, but my students that are in the room are still settling down, or we've got some latecomers. So I might want to kind of download that, put it into some editing software and cut off the first little bit, and maybe do a nice little graphic at the beginning that tells people what the class is about. So if that's the case, what editing tools do you want to use? I would suggest Camtasia. That's the one I use when I am creating videos for the Digiterati Academy, and I've got you a little screen grab of this very course. This is one of my other modules. It's actually module 1. You can see that is the video stream here. That's actually the audio stream, and as well as the video stream. That there is my little jingle at the beginning. That's a little graphic I've put on top. These are some other graphics I've put on top. All of these little lines here are cut points where I've taken out some of my ums and ahs. You've got a whole menu here. You can fade in and out. this is where you can make this line a little bit bigger, so you can get do some editing a lot more easily. You can just cut little bits in and out here. It's actually incredibly straightforward to set up and start working with. Camtasia themselves have got lots of nice how-to videos. So do have a look at Camtasia. It's about 200 and something pounds, so it's not super cheap, but it's a lot easier than getting to grips with some of the really professional editing programs. So you might want to consider doing that. Of course, there's good old iMovie if you are on iOS. Nice and straightforward, very simple to use, and of course it's free if you are on iOS, so that may be a good thing to do. I'm sure there's plenty of free apps out there. There's definitely free apps out on mobile phone. I haven't used them because I use Camtasia all the time, but you know, there are choices to be had out there. You could also, if you want to get someone else to do them for you, use something like Fiverr and see if you can commission someone else to do some simple editing for you. Two final things in this module. I want to think about platforms for online courses and then how you schedule one-to-one lessons or online classes. So platforms, Kajabi really would be the professional choice and would be our personal choice as the Digiterati. Our Digiterati Academy is hosted on Kajabi. It has everything built in. It's got email marketing in, it's got automations, it's got a blog, it's got a landing page builder. You can effectively kiss goodbye to needing any third-party tools when you're using Kajabi. It's an all-in-one solution, but it is the most expensive option. So it is not for you unless you're really serious about putting together an online selection of courses, online membership, one-off purchases for people that may be going to come back and buy again and again and again. The only thing that Kajabi doesn't provide is a bookings calendar, but you can integrate Acuity scheduling if you want to. So that would be the only third-party tool you'd need. We at the Digiterati think it would be a great platform for a yoga business. You can sell online courses, you can do live events in Kajabi, and you can put regular class bookings in there, all using the same platform. So that would be our recommendation, but it is the more expensive one, and you are going to need to get to grips with Kajabi, which is not particularly for the faint-hearted. There are plenty of freelancers out there that can help you with it if you need to. Talk to us if you need help on that, because we can hook you into a Facebook group full of people that would be willing to help you for a small fee. The next one I would suggest is Teachable. That Too Big Magnetic screen grab I've got you there is hosted by Teachable. It's a nice little option for you, and it will be a lot easier to use than Kajabi. The other one you might want to have a look at is Thinkific. Now, I personally haven't had experience of either Teachable or Thinkific, so I'm not going to be able to talk you through the pros and cons of all of those. I've done some very brief research and talked to some people that are using those, and they would be the easier go-tos for you. So maybe have a look at those and consider which of those might work for you. Finally, let's look at scheduling one-to-one lessons or online classes. So I've got an example here of of someone, it's not exactly yoga, but near enough, psychic guidance and intuitive counselling. She has a Squarespace website which is integrated with Acuity scheduling. I think I know the person that did her Squarespace site, which is why I've got this screen grab. Acuity scheduling will do exactly what's going on here. People can book in for whatever sessions that you like. You can have a whole host of sessions listed there. They can buy packages and just book into classes. You can integrate this with Zoom. Acuity scheduling is just $15 a month. You can host it on your website, as this lady Dana has done, and it's possible to take payments through Acuity scheduling as well. So that would be our suggestion for scheduling either one-to-one lessons or online classes if you want to use a scheduling tool. And of course, there's also stuff like Facebook's calendar as well, which will be available on your Facebook page if you want to go down that route as well. We have a masterclass about that in Digiterati Academy. So that is it for my online course. This is the late bonus module that came in, just so that as well as setting up and marketing your local yoga or Pilates business, you now have an idea as to how you can turn that into an online or virtual environment. I'm wishing you all the very best with that, and do let us know how you get on, and obviously if you've got any questions, do post it into the comment thread below the video.